can't lean on Sphinx's Revelation 100% because, as we saw a bunch last week in Texas, you get if you lean on Rev too much and get it like Slaughter Games, or, you know, your one copy in your hand to rest or whatever, like, it becomes very hard to actually win. Unless you have Aetherling. Aetherling is like the card that's like, okay, I don't have access to this Revelation where I can just chain him and, you know, bury my opponent. I actually have to kill him. I actually have to get his life total to 0. Well, that's fine. I got Aetherling. So we got those, and in addition, with 3 Aetherlings. So this is like a real, you know, this deck is really looking to turn a corner. And we got, you know, the Warped Physique, the Azorius Charms, the Tragic Slips, the Dissipates, just your normal sort of. Ooh, Far and Away is another nice one. We talked about a couple split cards today.
We didn't talk about that one yet.
That one is real nice. You want to talk about an efficient answer to a worm token, an Advent of the Worm. Far and Away. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, people are going to start needing answers to Advent of the Worm soon enough, but we're gonna talk about Young Wolf for a minute, which I can safely say I didn't think I was going to do this weekend.
Yeah, you can talk about one. You got this one.
Okay, I'll take care of that. All right, so Young Wolf is going to come across for 1 here. Brad only has 2 of those in this deck. You're going to see him play a Skurstag High Priest, a card that he's kind of starting to be known for. Added it to the Aristocrats Act 2, had a lot of success with it there, and now you see it here in Junk Aristocrats.
I want to say it was Glenn Jones. I was talking to somebody, it might have been you actually, Cedric, where I was just like, really, Young Wolf? And somebody's just like, yeah, man, finally, Green has a Doom Traveler. It's like, really? That's what Green was missing out on?
That's why Green wasn't good enough.
Yeah, that's the card that was holding them back, was they didn't have a Doom Traveler. But, yeah, Young Wolf acting as Doom Travelers 5 and 6 in Brad Nelson's Aristocrat-esque deck, you know? And then you have the Scar-Striped, the Golgari Maze Runner, being the Cartel Aristocrats 5 and 6, so that you can have this sort of 1-drop that recurs High Priest into Sacrifice Outlet, Turbo 5/5 draw. You have 6 copies of 2 of those tools now, rather than just 4. Because, you know, the Falcon Wrath cost 4 in the original deck, so you couldn't do it on turn 3, and then by the time you are able to do it, they have time to sort of Wrath or get rid of your High Priest, and it no longer works. So that having access to that type of thing is really good. Speaking of having access to sweet things, that was a Supreme Verdict off the top.
That was, and I was actually looking at Buckingham's deck list, how many of those he had in his deck, and he does have 3 copies of Supreme Verdict, and this is a timely one here. As we saw, Brad was going to try to set up something that we've seen a lot from him, which is Skurstag High Priest, Cartel Aristocrat, and something that actually comes back. Normally it's Doom Traveler for Brad, this time it's Young Wolf. But either way, we're going to see Young Wolf die. It's going to undie. You see the +1/+1 counter, so now it's a 2/2. But Verdict does a nice job. Is he an old wolf now? He's a much older wolf, yes. Yeah. And you're going to see it'll come across for 2, but you see Buckingham kind of stabilizing, get himself out of a little bit of trouble there.
But once again, the Aristocrats deck's sort of claim to fame is their resilience to Wraths. I mean, they have so many multi-threats and threats that just don't care about Wrath in, you know, undying creatures or indestructible creatures or just lingering souls that are like already 2 creatures and then also another wave of creatures on its own. Like, especially when you have access to Township, like all of those individual cards, individual threats become so much more potent because you don't have to overextend into, you know, the next Wrath or Snap Wrath, as is so often the case.
So we're going to see Buckingham just play a Hallowed Fountain. He's going to pass the turn back. So let's see. We're going to see an attack here with Young Wolf and 2 tokens. So in for 4 we go. Let's see what Buckingham's going to do about this. Looks like we're going to see a Tragic Slip here.
Ooh, that Spirit stepped on a banana peel. Can you Spirit step on banana peels?
Since you said they can.
It just did. So.
Yeah, it just happened. It looks like Buckingham's going to take 3 and move down to 11 here. So let's see what Nelson wants to do in his second main phase, because, you know, he has to be a little bit wary of, you know, more Supreme Verdicts showing up. Does he want to put more Lingering Spirits tokens out there? He only does have 1 black mana to work with, it looks like right now.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see Blood Artist plus Lingering Souls or anything like that this turn.
The, sort of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. The lackadaisical use of the slip there, you know? It's not killing a key creature. It's not... you know, preventing a significant clock differential. He's just like, you know, I got the mana, I got the card, I have a better end game, like, I'm gonna just preserve my life total a little, like, take care of this spirit, and, you know, I feel like I'm gonna be tapping out the next few turns, or whatever the logic is. It's sort of a gut play, you know? That's something that is kind of harder to analyze because, I mean, we obviously know that he's got the Blood Artist follow-up, and so obviously we'd much rather have the Tragic Slip now to deal with the Blood Artist rather than a Spirit, but, you know, it is what it is. We're here now.
So now you see Buckingham taking a little while here on his turn on what he wants to do. He's got some options. You see Syncopate, you see a Snapcaster Mage. Looks like he may have an Aetherling in his hand as well. And as good as Aetherling is, again, it's only great once you actually have, like, if you're on even footing or if you have control of the game. Like, it's not, I don't think it would be great here if you played it. I think it would be okay, but I don't think it would be the backbreaker that you expect Aetherling to be, and the backbreaker that we saw it be at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze.
Yeah, it looks like he's looking to sort of alchemy here, maybe, you know, just draw some more cards, get deeper into his deck. He's not under a ton of pressure, but at some point he is probably going to have to Wrath, at which point, you know, maybe he'll be able to follow that up with an Aetherling.
So here comes Nelson with Young Wolf and the Spirit Token. Snapcaster Mage is here. It's going to block Young Wolf. Looks like we're going to see a Tragic Slip on the Blood Artist, well, so that trigger's going to happen.
That explains why he used the Slip. He's got the Snapcaster, you know, he worked out how his mana was going to look over the next few turns, and yeah, it's a pretty efficient Snapcaster there.
So Buckingham's going to go down to 9, one from the Blood Artist, one from the Spirit Token. And we'll see what Nelson's going to follow this turn up with here. Because again, you see a couple of cards in his hand. Looks like we see a Doomed Traveler over there. You see the Lingering Souls in his graveyard. Again, that one black mana, but he does have an Isolated Chapel now that he's going to play. Looks like he's going to be doing a little bit better here. So he's going to go with a Doomed Traveler.
We're going to say Doomed Traveler Souls is the obvious line, but oh,
all right.
Scar Stripey.
So he got a flashback as well?
No, he's going to
okay.
Scavenge is the name of that ability. Burrows, the Scar Stripe, you see him there on your screen, gives all of your creatures in your graveyard Scavenge. So you can scavenge onto any of your guys, not just the barrels, which is how I thought it was worded the first time I played it. It actually just makes any of your guys big. And then it can also sacrifice any creature and regenerate. So pretty resilient creature, pretty powerful card, but Oblivion Ring, one of the very few efficient answers to that card. And James does have his one copy of that and is going to use it here on the Golgari Maze Runner.
So Nelson's going to come across for 3. 2 in the air with the Spirit, 1 with the Doomed Traveler. So, you know, he's got some resilient threats here. And you see that Lingering Souls in the graveyard again, so he is going to flash that back now. So that's going to give him 2 more power on the table. We're still looking at a 2-turn clock. Two from that Spirit Token that has the die on it, 2 from these newly made Spirit Tokens, and 1 from the Doomed Traveler. So if you're Buckingham, you realize that you're going to get at least 2 more turns in this game.
Yeah.
Ideally, you know, Gavany Township could show up to the party. You see him flashback, I think, twice. At the end of Nelson's turn, draw a card, Watery Grave, and looks like Augur Bolt. Looks like actually a Drowned Catacomb here.
Yes. As you said, since he knew that he was going to get the extra turn, he was able to flashback his thing twice rather than cast Alchemy because he knows he's going to have another turn. And so he actually draws into a Snapcaster off of the thing twice and uses Snapcaster Supreme Verdict to basically wipe the board. And that Township would have been lethal.
Yeah, and he would have actually drawn Township for the turn with Nelson. So he draws Township, he plays it, he makes that Spirit Token a little bit bigger that was left behind from the Doomed Traveler. And so we continue on along here, and you see Buckingham's hand. You see an Augur Bolt, a Syncopate, that Aetherling, and a land in his hand. So now he needs, you know, he needs a little bit of help here. He does have some time because he is at 4, but I think he's probably going to lead off his turn with that Augur Bolt and try to find an answer.
Yep.
So 1, 2, and 3. Azorius Charm is going to do just fine.
That is a nice answer. Yeah. I'll take it.
So Azorius Charm goes to Buckingham's grip, and he is going to looks like he's going to pass the turn back. Did you see them clear up the graveyard a little bit there? They take the Supreme Verdict out of there that he did Snapcaster Mage back. There's your Isolated Chapel, and there's the turn. Nelson draws his card. There's a Temple Guard looming over there. We'll see what else he's got, as Azorius Charm is going to take care of that Spirit Token.
And it looks like he's gotten Brad to the point where he's out of gas, and he has an Aetherling. So Buckingham looking pretty in control at this point.
Now is the time where, again, if you're on even footing or you're a little bit ahead, this is where Aetherling closes the door quickly. Where Esper, if you look at Esper decks from pre-Dragon's Maze, this is where they'd go to Drown Yard land.
Yes.
That does not, I mean, that is not a short process. That
No.
takes a little while.
At 4 life, giving the Aristocrats deck like 5 more draw steps or whatever is, you know, kind of a scary idea. But being able to, you know, kill them in 3 attacks with the Aetherling instead of however long a Drown Yard takes, I guess 7 or 8 turns probably at least. It's a much more comfortable position.
And I was a little bit surprised to not see Buckingham cast that last turn. He cast it this turn, and I actually think Nelson now just drew a Lingering Souls. So you saw some indecisiveness for Buckingham last turn, where you saw him, you saw him go, I think I should, okay, I'm not going to cast Aetherling. All right, this turn I'm going to cast Aetherling. And Nelson, with a favorable draw, absolutely punishes his plan of he was going to leave up Syncopates to mess this entire thing up, and now Nelson draws Lingering Souls to blow up what Buckingham was going to do, and that indecisiveness may have cost him here.
Yeah.
Because if he cast the Aetherling the previous turn, Nelson bricks on his draw step. Now Buckingham would actually be attacking the Aetherling last turn and have this mana for Syncopate. Now Buckingham's facing down a lethal attack next turn.
Yeah, and actually Aetherling is so good. You know, another thing that Aetherling does that Drown Yard doesn't is actually attacking for damage, so the Azorius Charm can give lifelink and sort of turn a race. But I'm not actually sure that that's going to be enough because of the Gavany Township on Brad Nelson's side. Kind of messes up the math for James here.
So now you see Buckingham's hand of he has 2 Syncopates and that Azorius Charm. And now he's trying to figure out what he wants to do, because, I mean, a line of play that he can make here is, all right, I'm going to make my Aetherling unblockable, I'm going to jam you for 8, and then give my guy lifelink, and see how that would work out for him.
The Augur Sending also is 9, which then is a Aetherling lethal next turn. And assuming he has enough mana, which it looks like he does, to pump all the way to 8 and lifelink, that'll push him to 13, where Brad's Gavany Township represents 8 on the way back. So I think James's lifelink here actually does pull it out for him.
I'm really surprised that Nelson just didn't throw all of his Spirit Tokens in front of that Augur of Bolas. I don't see where that goes poorly for him here.
Yeah, assuming that the life totals are right, I mean that's a full turn's difference.
Yeah.
You know, the difference between 17 and 16
is huge.
We saw that at the Block Pro Tour.
Yep.
The 8-point chunks are like super valuable.
Yep.
That first shock land's kind of free, but that second one you got to think about.
Yep.
And they're choosing to go down to an 8-point chunk is a bit risky. It looks like Brad might have a Tragic Slip in hand.
He does have a Tragic Slip in hand.
Which is actually the full turn back.
Yes.
Because even just without Morbid, just -1, will leave Brad at 1, presuming that he finds, you know, a block for the Augur.
Because now what Buckingham would do on his turn is he would make a Aetherling unblockable, attack with it, pump, Brad would Tragic Slip it, and that blows up his entire turn.
Yeah.
Something that could not happen at the Block Pro Tour.
Correct.
So now here comes 3 of the Spirit Tokens, Nelson leaving 1 back here.
Because it's got that thing's on Augur duty.
That's right. And so now we're going to see a Gavany Township activation. So here come the dice. Spirit Token's going to get a little bit bigger. And as you said, that 1 Spirit Token that is untapped is on Augur of Bolas duty. But Tragic Slip is on a Aetherling duty here. As you see Buckingham quickly untap, he's going to draw his card. He draws a Sphinx's Revelation.
Because Brad's attack next turn is lethal, and James' attack this turn is short. So that was actually the game. Like, James needed to draw something there. You know, Syncopates aren't going to help him, but a Sphinx's Revelation is a huge draw. Does it give him another turn, is the question. It looks like gaining 6, back up to 13, facing 3, 6, 9, 12. Is that math right? It looks like he actually is going to survive at 1 if he just taps out for a rev here. Looking for another Supreme Verdict or what have you.
So he gains 5 life, he goes up to 12, as you're going to see. But see, now this is...
Is it 5 or 6? It looks like 6. Yeah, he's using his mana on Aetherling.
Yep.
This is a mistake.
So, I mean, it's pretty easy to call this a mistake, right? In hindsight, you know, we're working with perfect information here in the booth, but now you see Brad reaching for that isolated chapel. He says, I'm going to respond to that last Aetherling activation with a Tragic Slip, as he should.
Now you just pump the toughness or whatever.
Yep. You have to pump the toughness now, and then the power activation will resolve as well. So it'll go... So
it just hits for 7.
Yeah, so it just hits for 7 right now. And it's not going to be enough to kill Nelson this turn.
And then Brad attacks back for the win. I mean, it's not only Tragic Slip though. Like he could have Putrefy, Orzhov Charm. Like there's a lot of cards that he could have here, right? If Rev saves you, which I think it does, he's got 4, 8, 9 lands, so he could have gone up to 13, facing 12 on the way back.
Yeah, the Rev would actually put him up to 13. I mean, it's difficult to want to make that play, right? Where you see
you theoretically have the win.
Yeah, you in theory you have the win. Like everything went right the previous turn with the Azorius Charm lifelink. You're just thinking, okay, this went perfectly. Attack you, do my thing, finish you off with Aetherling, force you to have a removal spell. But you have to take that step back of what did that Sphinx Revelation actually accomplish for me? Because in one vein, you can look at Sphinx Revelation and say, okay, this didn't do much for me. I'm just going to kill my opponent. In the other vein, you can look at Revelation and say, holy crap, this wins me the game right now.
Yeah.
I
mean, looking at what he's drawing to at that point, he actually only has 3 Supreme Verdicts, and he had already used 1, and 2 Snapcaster Mage, which he had already used at least 1. 2, he used them both. Tragic Slip and the Supreme Verdict. So he actually only would have been drawing the 2 outs. Yep. So... probably better to just go for the kill there.
Sure. And so, as you see the life totals change here, because Aetherling becomes a 6/1 because of Tragic Slip, because there's a minus in power there.
Right.
So Nelson goes down to 2, and you see Buckingham looking at his hand. You see Brad kind of taking a look at things here too. Looks like we've had damage resolve, and I think we're in either Buckingham's second main phase, or maybe in Buckingham's end of turn. Yeah. But what you see there is you see a situation, and we see this a lot in Magic, and it's easy to call Buckingham out on like, why didn't you just Revelation? Like, why did you go for the kill? But on the flip side, we could just say like, if Brad doesn't have Tragic Slip and he draws Revelation and he overthinks, it's like, why don't you just try to kill him with Aetherling? What's he doing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, and also, that first reaction of like, when it wasn't to just draw 6 cards. And then the one for the next turn, 7 cards. He's drawing 2 outs with 7 cards. Is that even better than just trying to kill him?
Yeah.
Well, like I don't know the math on that, but like my gut says no. Like even if, that he's got X removal spells and that it's not lethal for a removal spell, then like, what does the math say? Do you have to go for it? I feel like it might.
And that game right there actually boils down to, there's a lot of things that are complicated about that game. That Revelation versus Aetherling is something that we're highlighting. But think back a couple turns prior, yet again, where Buckingham chose for that 1 turn to keep up double Syncopate in case Brad drew a spell. Brad drew a land, passes the turn back. Buckingham decides, all right, I guess...
Guess the coast is clear.
Yeah, I guess things are fine now. I guess I'll go for this Aetherling. When the coast was clear the previous turn, he hadn't identified that. And Nelson draws what is the perfect card in his deck to draw for that turn, which is Lingering Souls. But if Buckingham plays that game, I don't want to say correctly, because I don't feel like correctly is the right word, but if he plays that game in a different way in which, the coast is clear for the Aetherling the turn prior, he plays the Aetherling, Brad bricks, Buckingham untaps, he draws, bashes, and then Brad draws Lingering Souls, and Buckingham says, I have all this mana for a Syncopate, your Lingering Souls does nothing, he's up a game.
Yeah, and even if he didn't have the Syncopate, like, he lost the race by a turn.
Yep.
He waited a turn to cast the Aetherling. Yep. I mean, you don't have to be a math scientist to figure out, that would have been the difference. I mean, Brad had, like, I think 1 card, maybe 2. I feel like he had 1 card in hand. So Jay just like, what could that card be? Maybe he's sandbagging around the second Wrath or whatever. But it was just a Tragic Slip that he just like didn't have an opportunity to use.
Yep. And then that Tragic Slip, a card that should have probably never been on in the first place, ends up playing a huge role in that game.
Yeah. Literally 1 damage, 1 mana, gain 1 life.
Yep.
Or gain 2 life. Yep. It's just like the difference.
So we'll take a look at sideboards here because Buckingham is going to be on the play this game. AJ, you've got it.
Let's see here. He's got another Verdict, very possibly coming in. Curse of Death's Hold, a 1-up that is very powerful against all the Lingering Souls decks, and especially the Aristocrat decks that have like the Doomed Travelers. I guess it's okay against Young Wolf and quite good against Sorin as well. So Curse of Death's Hold definitely coming in. That one's going to be quite good. Blind Obedience probably not. Jace, Architect of Thought, another card that's quite good against token strategies. That might be coming in. You might think of Jace's as coming in against control decks, but the +1 of Jace Architect of Thought is actually like pretty good.
It's quite good against Brad's deck.
Against some of the creature decks. You wouldn't want to be plussing Jace against like a Hellrider, but like plussing it against the Lingering Souls is pretty good. Evil Twins, Negate, can't really see any of those coming in. Azorius Charm might come in, and Deadweight probably coming in. Kills Vorals, as long as he didn't scavenge onto it right away, and kills High Priest immediately. both pretty important cards to get off the board as soon as possible and proactively.
Yep.
So Deadweight probably coming in, Azorius Charm probably coming in, Jace's maybe, and definitely Curse and possibly Supreme Verdict. A lot of options. I mean, it's a control deck, so you're always going to have that sort of flexibility. Not sure what he wants to cut. Maybe just counters. Maybe some of the spot removal that's not as efficient. Yeah. Like Far and Away, even though it's like really awesome, not actually that good against like Lingering Souls or Doom Traveler. But at the same time, it's like good against Cartel Aristocrat and Varals and a Demon Token. Like, you know, it's like pretty good against half his deck and really bad against the other half.
Yeah, there are going to be situations where like Far and Away is like completely insane against Nelson, and then there's other times where it's like I would take literally any other card than this one right now.
Yeah. So maybe he like shaves those. Maybe like goes down to 1 or 2 because he has 3 main. And yeah, that seems to be what we're looking at here. What about what's Bard Narson got?
We're looking at Narson's side. We see 3 Sin Collectors. Those are certainly going to join us here
obvious.
Against the Spell Heavy Esper deck. 1 Appetite for Brains, 2 Garruk Relentless, 3 Unflinching Courage, 2 Abrupt Decay, and 4 Deathrite Shaman. Sin Collector, of course, going to come in. Appetite for Brains is a different story, where I could see it coming in, but if you take a look at Buckingham's deck list of cards that are actually 4 mana and more, outside of Aetherling,
it's just Verdict and like the potential for the Jaces and Curses in the board.
Okay, so we're looking at in between, 6 to 9 targets maybe. Is that worth a slot? Is that worth a card? Where it seems like it's very situational, where you're actually going to hit.
Yeah, and even if you do hit, if they just like Revelation for 3 or whatever, then like it doesn't matter that you Appetites, they're Aetherling.
Yeah, so what have you truly accomplished with Appetite for Brains? Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see if we see Nelson bring that one in. Garruk Relentless, again, Planeswalkers against blue control decks like this one, I think that's pretty obvious.
Usually pretty standard.
It's not great against him by any means, but it's just another tool among tools for him to bring in. Unflinching Courage, not for this matchup, more for your red-based aggro decks. Same can be said for Abrupt Decay. And then 4 copies of Deathrite Shaman. I think that's the interesting one, where, you can definitely make an argument for wanting to bring those in against a deck that has Snapcaster Mage, Think Twice, a lot of spells. So, you're going to actually be able to use that 2 life drain ability quite a bit. But again, is that worth investing a card? And is it better than his other options here? You can make an argument for just boarding out Tragic Slip, swapping in those Deathrite Shamans, and calling it a day.
Yeah, talking to Brad before the tournament, he actually liked Deathrite Shamans in his deck and the Predator Ooze deck he was building for his girlfriend.
Okay.
He had 4 Deathrites in the board of both decks, and he was writing out sideboard plans, and he was bringing them in way more matchups than I would have thought.
Okay.
Just like my default thought is that it's for Junk Reanimator, being the egotistical Junk Reanimator player, I'm just like, yeah, those are for me,
Sure.
But like he was bringing them in again. He was bringing in like 2 against red, and like a bunch against different Snapcaster decks. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple from him here.
We're going to see an Augur Bolas here from Buckingham. As you see, Nelson does have a Voice of Resurgence in play, so it's definitely going to change the way that James has to play, as he does hit a Far and Away off of that Augur of Bolas. And again, this is a card that we think could be very good, or Voice of Resurgence can make it borderline embarrassing. Yep. So how good is it actually going to be in this matchup? That's the question.
One of the many cards in Brad's deck that matches up very well against Far and Away is Voice, and Brad has 2 copies.
So a second Voice of Resurgence is going to come down. It's going to make things even more difficult here for Buckingham now, because now Far and Away has gone from bad to worse somehow, which I didn't think was going to be possible. But also the card that he really leaned on in Game 1 to be able to get back in the game and potentially win it is one that he's pretty far away from casting right now, is Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. Supreme Verdict, the double white, kind of an issue here for James, but, even if he had Wrath, like, unless he had 2, or like a Snapcaster follow-up to build the Wrath again, like 2 voice tokens in a deck that can just like play Lingering Souls and immediately make them 4/4s or 5/5s, it's just like, can you take that much damage without like a really awesome follow-up?
That's just something that you have to add into the equation.
And there is the Deathrite.
Yep. I'm not terribly surprised to see Nelson bring Deathrite Shaman in. He takes a look at Buckingham, asks if that does resolve. The answer is yes. And now Nelson is going to follow this play up with a Varaz the Scar Strike. And again, Nelson looking at Buckingham for confirmation to see if these things resolve, but he can't counter them, or 2 elemental tokens will come into play. So it's kind of like Brad is trying to induce, saying, hey, here's an awesome card, do you want to counter it?
This card's really good against you, you should probably counter it.
And this is kind of the strain that Voice of Resurgence puts on an Esper control deck, which is why you haven't seen a lot of it, and which is why you've seen people playing blue, white, red with these turn and burns and helixes and all this removal, because look at the difficulty that Buckingham's having right now.
Yeah. His I mean, his kingdom for a pillar. You know?
Yeah, or 8 pillars. As you see, Nelson, it looks like he's going to sacrifice Voice of Resurgence to that Virals.
No, it was far and away.
Okay, so he's
bouncing
using
the
gotcha.
Virals and sacrificing a voice, getting an elemental, and look at how much power he still has on board after a 5-mana, like, supposedly double removal spell, you know? Like, he could just cast Virals and scavenge, or cast Virals and, like, activate Deathrite. Like, so many options for so much power and so much damage.
And so you see Nelson playing Underground Tomb, Overgrown Tomb untapped. He's going to do exactly as you said, AJ, play Virals. Looks like he's going to scavenge that Voice of Resurgence somewhere. It's going to be on the other voice.
To get it past the Augur, makes sense.
So now that's a 4/4. The Elemental token's a 4/4, and Deathrite Shaman's just going to hang out.
I was going to say, you might as well attack with the Deathrite so the Augur can't chump.
Yeah, it's basically a free attack.
Yeah.
Because it's a 1/2 and not a 1/1.
You're not activating it anyway.
It should be a 1/1, but I'm not going to get into that. I've already gone on that rant before.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. But yeah, you do see those come across.
Brad realized this missed attack there. I love how he realized it because James is thinking about chumping. He's just like, oh crap.
Yeah, I missed that on 1, maybe 4.
Yeah.
So the Elemental token is going to eat that Augur of Bolas.
Ow.
4 damage from the Voice of Resurgence, and now you see Brad in overwhelming position right now.
Yeah.
Because if, let's say, perfect world, James had the white mana to cast Supreme Verdict right now, what does it even accomplish?
It kills the Elemental, which then immediately gets replaced in a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah. As Varals would sacrifice
and the
that
Varals,
Elemental token.
and the Varals has 3 +1/+1 counters to put on it and the Elemental.
So here's a Warp Physique. That's going to take care of the Virals, a card that we haven't see a lot of play, but it is a very efficient removal spell here for the Esper control deck.
Yep, definitely a very efficient removal spell. It actually gives +X, -X, rather than, you know, killing with power less than or whatever, so regeneration doesn't quite do it. And the art is also pretty sweet.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. As we see, Buckingham, you know, it seems like Buckingham would be at a lower life total right now, and then 14 to me. For some reason, I thought he was just taking a lot more damage. But
the Augur held off the 2/2 voice for like 4 turns.
Yeah, there's been some blocking, and he's been getting a little bit crafty with far and aways and stuff. But, I mean, this is a prime example of, 1, why Esper isn't doing very well in the format, but 2, just how powerful Voice of Resurgence is, because it's changed the way that James has to play this game in, like, a crazy way. As here's a 3rd Voice of Resurgence from Nelson.
Pretty insane. Like, it just turns off so many of your cards and limits the utility of so many of your other cards.
Yeah.
Like,
and you see Nelson playing these creatures pre-combat because he wants to make that Elemental token as big as he possibly can. And now you've got Buckingham reaching for mana. And if you're Brad right now, you're going, yeah, reach away. Yes.
What, the Azorius Charm, my guy? You got it, man.
Yes, go ahead, put that Elemental on top so I can have 2 more. I would love that. A very, very powerful card is Voice of Resurgence. Everyone knows that by now. The price of this card, both in real life and Magic Online. You know, going into Pro Tour Dragon's Maze, talking with Sam Black and the rest of Team SCG, they basically said, like, you know, this card is a mistake by Wizards of the Coast because, you know, this is meant to be a card that's very good against an Esper control strategy, but it also happens to be very good against your red deck.
Yes.
And you know, the only place where it's truly bad is in green mirrors because it's not very big, but even the guy that it makes there can actually be relevant. So there isn't a matchup where this card is just like, ugh, I don't want this.
Yeah, your hoser cards aren't supposed to hose everything.
So now you saw that Azorius Charm basically save Buckingham a little bit of life, but at what cost? Because now we have Elemental tokens in the house.
And Aetherling doesn't quite cut it.
Yep. And Supreme Verdict, if it wasn't going to do anything before, it ain't going to do anything now.
Yeah.
So Buckingham's going to extend the hand, and we have Brad Nelson winning 2-0 against Junk Aristocrats, with Junk Aristocrats, defeating Esper Control in what was a pretty one-sided affair. I guess game 1 was actually